All right, it is shoot day, and today we're going up 2 hours up north to go shoot this documentary for a nonprofit. We have 8 hours to shoot all the content that we need to fill up a 10-minute documentary, and that's talking about 3 interviews. That's 3 different interview setups, 3 different lighting setups, and then we gave ourselves about a 2 to 3 hour window to go ahead and shoot all the B-roll that we need. So our biggest hurdle today really is the time constraint that we're working with. All right, this is it, baby. We are pretty much ready to go. This is definitely unlike any project we've ever done because this is such a delicate situation, you know? It's not something where we just go in and we bang out our shot list and we ask our interview questions and we're doing a typical documentary. You have to be aware emotionally of what they're going through. And you have to know how hard and when you can push them with the interview questions and when you gotta take a step back and make sure that they're okay, because we're not just talking about, you know, winning or losing a game. We're talking about life, and she lost her husband and her kids got cancer and he's battling it. So I'm a little anxious. I would say I'm a little bit anxious because I want to make sure that they feel comfortable. I want to make sure that they feel good, and we're not intruding on their lives. We're not trying to take something from them. As a matter of fact, we're trying to give them something. We're trying to give them a voice. Okay, we just got here. It's time to meet the family and introduce ourselves. My name is Alex.
Hi, Alex. I'm
Ollie. Is Michelle here?
She's upstairs. Come on in.
Awesome.
You guys can just leave your shoes down here.
Yeah, no problem. So, come. Hey, Michelle, how are you?
Good.
How are you guys doing? Usually, my first step is to kind of figure out where we're gonna do the interview. And if you don't mind, guys, one more time, what was your names?
Molly.
Molly?
Stacy.
Stacy. Molly, Stacy, Michelle. Molly, Stacy, Michelle. Gotcha. Just gotta remember that.
We have Alex, and
Lewis. Alex, and Lewis.
This is Enrique. He's our nurse.
Enrique, what's up, brother? It's nice to meet you guys. Okay, so let me do this. I'm gonna wash my hands just so we know we're clean. And then I'm probably gonna start. Do you guys mind if I move some stuff around?
Yeah.
That's okay. We'll move it all back and make sure that everything's in the right place.
Making documentaries is so much different than any other style of filmmaking. You have to dive into the middle of these people's lives and somehow figure out a way to tell their story in a really creative and cinematic way. One thing that I do that I think is very important is whenever I'm entering into somebody's life and in their home, it's very important to ask them, you know, where can we set up our gear? Is there any room in the house that you don't want us to go into? Is there anything that we should know about your house or about your family that we should be aware of? Do you want us to take off our shoes? All these little things show that you care about the respect of their home and you respect their life. You make them feel comfortable, and that plays such a big role in how they're going to answer these interview questions.
Would you guys mind if I just move this couch back a little bit? Lewis, help me move this back just a little bit. And if not, we come back tomorrow. Just move it, yeah, right there, something like that. You're good. I'm just kind of playing with the angle, seeing what looks good. I like it because there's a lot of depth because of the background. I'm just gonna tape down this spot just because I like what this is looking like, but I still want to check some other places in the house. But right now, this is definitely an option. This could be one of the interviews for sure for either the grandmothers or the mom. All right, now we got that kind of locked off. Let's find another spot. Let's see what else we can get. Yeah, this is a definite no right here. Look straight into camera for me.
So what are you looking for when one of these places?
I'm looking for number 1, depth, but also composition and symmetry. And right now we have none of those. It's just, there's too much going on back here and we kind of have to move fast. So right now my instincts are telling me, go with one of them sitting here. Let's move on. Let me see what else we can do.
So we had 3 different interviews to shoot. While we locked in our first location, I knew that we were gonna need at least another 2 locations for the other interviews, because if we had to cut to an interview back to back and we shot the interview in the same location, it would feel like a jump cut from one person to the next. So we had to make these locations feel different. But the area that we were working with was very small. We were starting to run out of time. So I was like, you know what? Let's just start our first interview. Let's get this done. Let's get the momentum going. And then we'll start to worry about our second and third location.
We're gonna just do a basic key light and hair light lighting setup. We don't really have time for anything intricate. So the light over here is gonna shoot at the back of her, kind of illuminating her, and then we're probably gonna do a light, like doing a key light coming in over here. But where I want you to be is like right where this table is, right here. Come over here. Yeah. I want a C-stand over there, and then I want a C-stand right here. We're gonna start rigging up the lights, but first, Michelle, whenever you're ready, finish your food, and then I'm gonna get you kind of sitting over there for a second, and then we're gonna start lighting you up, and then I'll give you a minute after that, okay? Right now, my only concern with this shot is that we're being affected a little bit by the outside light. I think, in my opinion, it's the strength of the house, and I think it's probably the nicest shot that we can get. Right now, we got about 3 hours to do the interviews, and then about another 3 hours to get all the B-roll that we need, probably with a break in between. So we gotta move fast. We gotta be right here. This shot's gotta be right here. Yeah, cool, I like it. Okay. We're actually gonna run a lav on one camera and a shotgun on the other. We're gonna check audio. Go ahead and sit down there for me. I'm gonna check audio, and then we should be good to go. Okay. Let me just grab a seat right here, and then we're gonna get this thing started.
This was by far one of the most challenging interviews that I've ever had to direct because it was such a sensitive topic and her pain was still so fresh. It almost felt invasive to ask certain questions, but at the same time, I needed to make sure that I got responses that I actually needed to tell this story.
Like after this happens, after this disaster happens with your husband, what was the thing that kept you going? What was the thing that kind of, because that could break somebody, that really could. So talk to me a little bit about that.
I just remember for months afterwards, I just kept on begging God to wake me up from this nightmare, to just let it be just that, just a dream.
You know, when you're in a situation like this, it's very important that you don't just read off of your interview questions. You need to make this as conversational as possible because she's sitting there kind of waiting for you to ask these really deep, intimate questions. And if you're sitting there just reading off of, you know, your phone or a script, it's gonna feel like it doesn't really mean that much to you. You need to make it feel like every word that she's saying is important and you're invested into every emotion that she feels, and this is a safe space for her to pour out that emotion. After we finalized our first interview, it was then time to find our spot for our second interview, and I just decided to shoot it right with one of the grandmothers sitting on the couch, using the outside as a backdrop. And a big reason why I decided to do this is because it gave us a ton of depth and color and texture, but most importantly, it saved us time because all of the lights were in that area, so all we had to do was just move them and adjust them in place to make sure that it fit that particular scenario. And what I really loved about it is that it looked completely different from the last interview that we got. And I knew that when it came time to editing and you needed to cut them, even if you had back-to-back interviews, it wasn't gonna feel like they were in the same location.
Grab that C-stand, Lewis, and that's metal. It has a magnet. So just grab that C-stand, put it like right here, and we'll get the light perfect. So we just need it to be like right there-ish. Yeah, I like that. I think that looks good. Guess what, guys? We got one more interview to do.
So after our second interview, I really knew that we were starting to run out of time, and we were left with only 3 hours to shoot the last interview and all the B-roll that we needed. And initially, I was worried about it, but one important thing that I would tell any director or producer while you're in this kind of a situation producing this kind of documentary is don't panic, don't freak out, don't show that you're freaking out. I never showed it once. I kept the energy up, I kept the vibe up, because if you start showing that you're worried or you're panicked, everybody feels that. Your crew feels that, the talent feels that. That energy could definitely affect the outcome of the interviews. So whenever I'm a little bit worried or I'm a little bit anxious, all I do is I put my head down and I start making decisions, because the last thing that you want is to be undecisive in a situation like that.
We're using everything that we have at our disposal. As you can see right here, we got a key light, we got a hair light back here, but this is the interesting part. We have a sheet, okay, that we are bouncing light from the key light and the hair light through, and then we also have a aperture infinity bar right there coming through these sheets. I think we're looking pretty good.
Now that we had all the interviews out of the way, it was time to start capturing B-roll. And in a situation like this, I try my best, my absolute best, not to stage anything because I want it to feel real and I want it to feel authentic. And you know, there was a moment where I know that Noah had to eat and the nurse was gonna help the mom feed Noah. So I just said, you know what, would you guys mind doing that right now? And I'm just gonna capture it. I didn't really set up a bunch of lights. I actually told my crew to take a break and I just left it really intimate and I caught a really authentic moment. What I'll try to do is I'll ask them to kind of play out a situation. I'll say, can you read him a book on the couch? Or, you know, I'll ask the mom, can you just play with your son? And just different little actions, but I'll say, you know, don't pay attention to the camera, act like I'm not even here. I'm just gonna witness it. I'm just gonna capture that moment. And I really don't give them too much more direction than that. I also feel like if you start giving too much direction or you start giving too many notes on what it is that they're doing, it starts to feel way less authentic. That's one thing that I try to keep in mind while I'm making my documentaries is that I want this to feel like the camera's not even there, that somehow we're just dropping you in the middle of their living room. If there's any advice that I could give to filmmakers looking to make their first documentary is make sure that this is something that you truly enjoy. Just the act of getting to know these people and listening to their stories and just genuinely being interested in their life, that is really what makes a good documentary filmmaker. Because all the other skills you can learn, cinematography, lighting, figure out what gear you need, you know, figuring out how to budget something and all the other things, that's all things that you can learn. But to have real passion for what it is that you're doing, to have the need and the want to tell these real stories in a really cinematic and creative way, that's what's going to make the best documentaries, and that's where you're gonna get the best work that you make. Personally, I'm so grateful to be able to be in the position to tell these stories and really give these unsung heroes that no one would ever hear about or no one would ever see a voice. And if you guys want to learn more about documentary filmmaking, my team and I have been producing a course for the last couple of years, and this is a course that helps aspiring filmmakers that have an idea or the inspiration to make a documentary and take them through the entire filmmaking process, from the initial idea to monetizing and distributing their film and even pitching it to major streaming platforms. So if you guys are interested, I'll leave a link in the description down below so you guys can check out that course and sign up for the email list. We plan to release this hopefully by the end of the year. We're working really hard to get all the course materials done and the website done. It's really a ton of work, but I'm super proud of what we're putting together so far. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for stopping in, experiencing this journey with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Deuces.